Okay, good morning my fellow degens, and welcome to a Jax tutorial in Mortal Kombat 11. Now, this isn't going to be a very in-depth tutorial, this is probably more going to be something just to get you able to press buttons with him, have fun online, and this is just basically to give you a good base level understanding of the character. Now, Jax is a pressure character with a really stupidly good 50-50. The upsides of Jax is he's very unga, you can actually get pretty decent damage out of him, without very much execution. Now, the downsides of Jax is because he's a 50-50 rushdown character, is he's actually very weak to zoning, and his own zoning isn't actually very strong, especially without heat. Now, your main strategy with Jax is definitely going to be trying to build heat, which he can build off of landing punches. Well, let me set that off block. You can see that the more I punch him, the more my hands start glowing. This is how you generate heat, which you can use to access his crushing blows, or you can use to access certain special moves like Heat Missile. Now, gaining heat also does a little bit of radiant damage. For instance, if I were to throw him and do a back throw, that actually will do more damage than if I were to just do a back throw normally. So, anyways, let's start talking about Jax's normals. Now, the main normal you're going to be using the most is forward 3. Forward 3 comes out in 9 frames and is basically your main combo starter and also your main punishing tool with forward 3-3. What you can do with forward 3 is if they block, you can do this and then go into forward 3-3 again, because on block, this actually has a little bit of stagger to it. You can also do forward 3 into forward 2 and start his 50-50, or you can do forward 3 into his throw. It really is all up to you. Jax actually has a really good throw loop in this game, especially off his back throw. You can dash up to a meaty, dash up to a throw, but we'll get to that in a minute. His other main normal that you're going to be using is forward 2. Forward 2 is how he starts his 50-50. Comes out in 12 frames. You can do forward 2-1 to get an overhead, or you can do forward 2-1 or down 4 to get a low. This is basically his main 50-50. Or, not even his main 50-50. This is his 50-50. You can do this anywhere on the screen. Of course, in the corner that it's much more effective. You could also do forward 2 into his throw. If they get hit, or if they block it. Whoops. Or if they block it. It's -4 by itself, which pretty much means you're not going to really continue offense. But it's still a pretty decent move to start shenanigans like that. You do forward 2-1, which is still safe, mildly safe on block. However, at -7, that you can still get a down jab, so it's not very punishable. Forward 2 down 4 is incredibly punishable though. His other main normal that you're going to be using is 1-2. 1-2 is a high mid that advances forward. It's actually really good because on block it's +1. So it's definitely still your turn while it's happening. But what's nice is it advances you forward by a pretty decent amount. You can also end 1-2 with 1 to get a nasty overhead in case they're trying to duck the high. Or, like I said, since you're +1, you can again start his throw loop. Do something like that. Whoops. Or you can even do to start some pressure. Either way, that move is very good. He also has a down 1-2, which is the only character to have a down 1-2 string. So he's the only character to have a down 1-2 string. Now, this can be used as an anti-air, especially if they jump behind you. However, you're mainly going to be using this string as combo filler. For instance, there we go. So yeah, it's mostly going to be used as combo filler, but it can be used as an anti-air. He has another very good normal for increasing pressure with forward 4. Now forward 4 by itself comes out kind of slow, but it travels a lot of distance, and it's a mid, so that's very nice. But the thing about this move is it's +1 on block. Again, this is a pretty good thing to start pressure with, because you're at plus frames. But if they don't crouch, you can also press 2 to do a high. It comes out not super slow, But on block, you can see that it's +9. This move right here is ridiculous. It staggers them back. If it hits them, they get thrown to the other side of the screen. It's a solid move. I recommend throwing this move out just in the neutral to, one, try to close distance real quick, because you can see it hits from pretty far away. You can throw this move out from kind of a pretty good distance, and it still connect. And if they block it, you're plus. And if they don't block it, you're still plus by a pretty good amount. So you definitely can start offense just using this move. I don't recommend always going for the high afterwards because it is duckable and you can interrupt it, but a lot of people won't interrupt it just out of fear of it accidentally clipping them. His last normal that we're going to be looking at is back 2. Back 2 is technically an unseeable overhead. This right here is almost impossible to react to. However, you can charge it up and you will be able to combo from it. So those are just a handful of normals that you can be using. The thing about back 2 that I forgot to mention is back 2, a normal hit, just for pressing back 2, is actually 0. So you can't actually get any offense from this. But it's very hard for an opponent to react to, especially online. There's not exactly a whole lot of startup behind it, so it's very hard to see coming. So either way, on hit, it's going to be 0. I wouldn't throw this out all the time. I also don't recommend just sitting there and charging it, because the only way that's going to work is if your opponent is literally asleep. But it is an option that you have, and you might be able to catch somebody with a fully charged back 2. However, again, I only recommend doing this just as a cheesy way to catch your opponent. So let's look at his special moves real quick. So the main one that you're going to be, the main 2 that you're going to be using, especially for the grinning beret variation that I like to use, is Gotcha, and I believe it's called Duck and Weave. Now, Gotcha is basically Jax's main way of building heat. One of the main ways you can land it is using forward 3-3. Or you can use this as a combo ender from his bread and butter. Oh boy, come on. And you'll notice that every time Jax punches them, he's generating heat, which is the main use of this special move. So when you land Gotcha, you have a couple options. You can do Gotcha 1, which is the punches in the face, and you can do that up to 5 times before Jax will automatically throw them out. You also have Gotcha 2, which is a stomach punch that advances them forward, that you can do up to 2 times. He also has Gotcha 3, which side switches and takes one of your hits away. And the last move that he has is Gotcha 4, which he throws them to the other side, or in front of him, I should say. Now, the thing about this move, Gotcha 4 is a great way to get your opponent into the corner really quickly, because look how much distance he throws them. The thing about this move, though, is if you're in the corner and you do Gotcha 4, it actually is a restand. So what you can do to often catch your opponent mashing buttons, Gotcha 4 into forward 3-3, and that'll usually catch an opponent if it's hitting buttons, and on block forward 3-3 is still relatively safe. Now, his other move, Duck and Weave, is forward back 2, and this is basically his main way to start combos. If you do the enhanced version, you'll launch them into the air. You can also do Duck and Weave 4 to get Ripper, which is an overhead attack. You can also do Duck and Weave, and then do a throw to get the side switching throw. This is, however, a blockable throw. I should also mention that Gotcha is not an actual command grab, and that it can be blocked. And if it is blocked, you are actually ridiculously unsafe. The other special move that Jax has is Ripper. Oh boy, hold on. Ripper is a pretty good move because you can start combos with it. I recommend doing it more into the corner because it's just easier to combo after. So if you do forward 3-3 in the corner, you can cancel into Ripper. And that's a good way to get the big boy damage. So he also has Briggs Barrier, excuse me. This is a projectile parry. If you do parry a projectile, it will generate you some heat. And he also has a way to just generate heat with a special command, which is down, down 3. You can enhance it to get another pump of heat, but this is a slow way to generate heat, and I don't recommend using it as your main way to generate heat. Now let's look at Jax's zoning options. Jax has a couple different non-heat options. They're not very good. He has Grounded Bound, which is a full screen low that can be blocked. It's okay to use, but the problem is you're only going to be landing this move if you're interrupting someone from doing something, or your opponent's not paying attention. You can enhance this to get a knockdown, which will allow you to dash in and cover some distance. However, I don't recommend relying on this tool. The weakness of it is obviously that it's a low. So if it can be blocked, or if they're jumping, this move doesn't hit. Also, you'll still lose out to projectiles like Sub-Zero's Ice Ball. The other non-heat move that Jax has is his Thumper. Now, Thumper is a very slow startup, and it's also a very slow moving projectile. It does shoot at an arc, which will usually land at an opponent's feet at full screen, and you can change the angle of this arc by pressing up. You can also enhance it to get a second shot, but again, this projectile is very slow and it's not very useful. By far, Jax's best projectile is if you gain some heat. You have access to Jax's best projectile, which is Heat Missile. If you press 4, if you have the heat for it, it's heat. The only way to use this projectile is by spending heat. So this projectile is pretty good. It's fast moving. It travels at a pretty decent angle. And if you press 4 after the input, you'll get a second missile. The thing about this projectile that makes it really good is if you land a 6-hit combo with it, you'll actually get access to a crushing blow. Okay, let's see if I can do this without messing up. Whoop. There we go. Yeah, you can use this to gain access to a crushing blow. Of course, the combo's a lot easier to land in the corner, but still, that's pretty much like the best part about Heat Missile. Now, as much as Jax has zoning tools, I don't recommend relying on this, especially for this variation, because the zoning, as you can see, is very slow and very easy to react to. The only good zoning tool that he has is Heat Missile. A Heat Missile requires heat, which is basically Jax's damage buff. So it's not really that great to rely on. So yeah, that's just basically a quick rundown of Jax and his tools. I should talk about Jax's crushing blows in this variation. In the Grinning Beret variation, Jax has two main crushing blows. You have the Heat Missile, and you also have Jax's forward throw. Now, the forward throw is something people are going to be guessing a lot of, so it's kind of hard to land, especially when they realize that you have full heat. So they're going to be breaking forward throw quite a bit. But forward throw, when you're at max heat, will actually be a crushing blow that does a pretty decent amount of damage. That is one of Jax's main crushing blows. You can use a fully charged back two to gain a crushing blow, and the Heat Missile, like I mentioned. So anyways, let's go into Kombat League, and let's just go see if we can use some of these tools, and give you guys an example of how to play Jax.
Round 1, fight! Jax wins. Round 1, fight. Round 2, fight.
Man, what are you gonna do?
Final round, fight.
Shut up and color.
Finish her. Jax wins.
So, there was just a quick little example of how you should be playing Jax, or at least this variation. Anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Remember, if you actually found this video helpful, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you guys later. Peace out.